In a stunning show of bureaucratic bravery, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife held a giant public comment session Tuesday in the Tolowa Dunes Nation's Huancat Hall in Smith River, allowing the assembled Del Norters both in person and online to comment on the department's work, past, present, and future, managing land and resources in Del Norte County. Officials from CDFW ran through a PowerPoint presentation outlining both past and planned improvements and mitigations to all the parcels and properties it oversees, from the Saxton boat launch to riparian lands south of town. But the presentation mostly dealt with, and most of the people in the room were there to share their views about, the Lake Earl Wildlife Area north of Crescent City. The 6,100-acre Lake Earl Wildlife Area, or LUWA, often runs out of the money in the minds of most, behind the triple tourist threat of the beach, the river, and the redwoods. But we have the lake, too. With miles of trails, abundant wildlife, and humanity at arm's length, Lakes Earl and Tolowa offer a nearby and nearly invisible piece of unspoiled nature. It's a sanctuary for migratory birds, a home to hawks and porcupines and gunmetal gray cottontail bunnies, and the occasional wire-hair terrier. And nobody goes there, or so I thought. But the Huancat Hall was full of people just like me, people who love the lake. After the presentation, CDFW opened the floor to comments and questions from the assembled, which included area residents, conservationists, outdoor enthusiasts, park rangers, scientists, local politicians, a member of the Coastal Commission, and, by far the largest group in attendance, duck hunters. The issues brought up by the public included unlawful use of the LUWA, public dumping and degradation, as well as questioning the dilapidated state in which CDFW keeps many of the buildings it owns in the LUWA. But the most contentious issue was brought to the presentation by Jeff Reed and others from Norte Waterfowlers, a group of local duck hunters who have hunted the LUWA for years. The waterfowlers contend that proposed closures to prime hunting ground at the south end of Lake Tolowa is uncalled for. The area in question is also prime land for European beach grass, which is invasive and highly disruptive, and the target of the Tolowa Dunes Stewards, a conservationist group that performs restorative weeding all around the lake throughout the year. In the past, the two groups have tried to coexist in the zone, which can vary wildly in physical size based on water levels, but that has led to conflict. The waterfowlers say that closures aren't part of the 2012 management plan, and nowhere in any of the state's documents regarding the lake are closures mentioned as a possibility. However, CDFW has issued the closures to ease the controversy, something that doesn't seem to be working.
This is Jeff Reed again. This is 273 comment forms related to no closures to hunting on the Lake Earl Wildlife Area. I hope that'll work. We didn't fill out your cards 273 times.
Nope, it's okay.
All right, and to just piggyback on what Frank and Sherman said, we saw during the presentation the dune restoration plan from 2012. Nowhere in that plan does it talk about hunting closures. None. It's not even mentioned in there at all. They also talked about the coastal permit. The coastal permit doesn't talk about hunting closures. In fact, the coastal permit says that public access and recreation will not be limited or prohibited or in any way affected by this project that the Coastal Commission approved. And it's written in there. I may have paraphrased it slightly. It's been a long day. But you get the gist of it. So all this stuff about we can only do the work during certain periods and all of that kind of thing is patently untrue, because the dune stewards, we know, they advertise for help all year, they work all year out there. And as Frank said, no disrespect to the work they do and the volunteers they have and that entire group. That is not our intention. Our intention is to show that there's plenty of time to get that work done without impeding legal waterfowl hunting on the wildlife area.
Then a volunteer with the Tolowa Dunes Stewards spoke from firsthand experience with the hunters.
Thank you, Jeff, and everybody. As one of the people who's been working out there, I just want to provide a little background, and maybe I'm out of place too, but my first awareness of this was that Jeff was upset because the workers were flushing the ducks from his favorite hunting spot on the south end of the lagoon. And then it became apparent apparent that there were some safety issues, and so Tolowa Dunes Stewards never asked for any hunting closures, nor was it foreseen, and I was involved in writing that plan in 2012. But this came because we've come up against greater use, greater public use, more going on, more recognition of the value of all the resources out there. And I worked on a lot of refuges, and I've never seen one where public general access is one and the same as hunting access. So it's not just the restoration project, it's that there's people out on the beach, there's bird watchers that have been confronted by hunters. It's just a bunch of people coming together with some incompatible uses, and there was only one road to get to the restoration area, and then there's the breach. If it's open, you can't get to the restoration area when it's open. So it's really not that sinister, or, CDFW has their own take on this, but that's my take as far as a contractor working out there. It's a matter of the road access, flushing ducts, and then the overall safety issue, which is there's no separation of hunting and public use.
Sandra Jerebick of the Stewards injected a bit of humanity into the debate, along the way illustrating just how close-knit the folks who love the lake are, despite their stance on this issue.
Jeff, Sandra, I just want to say I've heard that people are saying we are against duck hunting. We are not against duck hunting. I think you know that. We support duck hunting. And as was just said, we did not ask for this situation. I'm really sorry that it's happening, but there are some real issues. I wish we had another hour to have a human talk about this. We all love it out there, and we have that in common, right? We just love it out there, and we all need to be able to use it. Restoration does not go on forever, and when you have grants, there's a deadline by which you must complete spending the grant and doing the work. And we are very accountable. There are annual reports, there are annual visits. We have to deliver within a certain timeline, and so we have to work this out somehow. Thank you for listening.
After the meeting, I spoke with Jeff Reed to learn more about why the waterfowlers are upset.
Anything close to the resolution you were hoping to get?
No. What I did learn, according to Ms. Jerebick, is the closures were instituted by the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the Dune Stewards say they have nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. But what I can't rectify in my mind is there was no need to do that work in those areas on that slide between the end of October and the end of January during duck season. And no one demonstrated why that work needs to be done then. And it's obviously on the department.
I also spoke with Sandra Jerebick to get the Tolowa Dunes Stewards side.
What are your thoughts after this meeting, after the exchange with the waterfowlers in the state?
I really appreciate Cal Fish and Wildlife giving the public all this information. I think they're doing a great job with not enough staff. And I think that we all need to let our elected officials in Sacramento know that this agency has precious jewels of resources up here, and they're not staffed up enough to protect it or take care of it. Okay, so that's one thing. But I appreciate Cal Fish and Wildlife, but I also want to say that it's too bad we got really bogged down in all the Lake Earl breaching issues again when the agency spent 15 years dealing with those issues and answering everybody's questions. And what was a burning issue today was the duck hunting. I'm sorry we didn't have enough time for all the duck hunters to say how they feel, because I feel tremendous empathy for them. And I think perhaps a point that wasn't made is that we don't just do volunteer work. We also get grants, and we employ people to do beach grass removal. We employ crews. We emphasize employing local crews. And we need to be working year-round to get the beach grass out of there and eradicate it during a 3 or 4 year period, so that's not very long, it would be really hard for us to stop working entirely during the 3.5 months of duck hunting season. European beachgrass likes winter, it likes rain, it keeps growing. If you left it alone, once you've done the initial removal in an area of the beachgrass, you have to keep going back at least monthly, but ideally more often, and removing resprouts of the beachgrass roots everywhere that you've removed it until you finish an area. To finish an area means that the root under the sand dies.
The California Department of Fish and Wildlife's updated management plan for the Lake Earl Wildlife Area will be issued next year. Will the duck hunters be happy? Probably not. But frustration with state regulation is something that unites most Del Norters, just like loving Lake Earl. For KFUG Community Radio, I'm Paul Kritz.